Well, I'm about to go see Inception because everybody's saying it's off the hook. So let me see how that film is. So apparently, Inception is like the greatest movie of the last bazillion years. So they're saying to come see it. So I'm about to go see it and see how it is. So I'll let you know how it is in about 2.5 hours. Well, this came out of Inception about 2.5 hours later, and I'll talk some more about it. It was a good movie, but I'll talk some more about it. Alright, here's my review of Inception that I went to go see earlier this afternoon. Basically, all the buzz on the Facebook, how awesome this film is I said, is it as good as The Matrix? Is it as good as Star Wars? Man, it's like apples and oranges, you can't compare. It's incredible, it's awesome, all that stuff. So I said, alright, I'll go out and see it. So I went out there to the matinee. About, I don't know, 30, maybe 40 people were in there. And basically it started. Starts off, well, I'll put some spoilers in here, so I'll try not to put too much, but I'll talk about the film. You know, it starts off with this water scene, and visually it looks good. The cinematography looks really good in a lot of ways. This film here, Inception, is a good example of why there is science fiction. It would be, basically this story is about loss. If you really get down to the theme of this story, is how do you face the loss, in this case the loss of your wife, loss of somebody that you care about a great deal. And we've seen that a bazillion times in film and literature and songs and so forth like that. You know, what's a different twist on to be able to watch this film? And basically it takes about 2 hours and change to finally get to the punchline of this thing in a lot of ways. Christopher Nolan, of course, you know, did Dark Knight as well as Memento. Following was, I think, his first film, which I really liked a whole lot. It's like like with The Dark Knight. I personally, well, I guess before I get to that point, I'll talk about some of the good things. It's a good piece of science fiction, and not sci-fi. There's a difference between sci-fi and science fiction in my mind. The science was needed to tell the story in a lot of ways, at least to get you to the point of view what's going on there. Visually, it looks really good. The acting was really good. There's a story there. Music, soundtrack sounded good. Some cool special effects you probably haven't seen before in a film. So that being said, just like The Dark Knight, good film, really good film. Too long of a film. I don't care what anybody says. It's too long of a film. And really, when you get down to telling a story, you tell a story. Dark Knight had 2 or 3 stories going on, and they all were told well, but it still takes away from the story. And this here is another thing. There's a lot of junk going on in between this, that, and other, and so forth. Get to the point. This film would have been a rocking 1.5 hour film. Just get out, cut an hour out, bam. Cut an hour out. Just get to the point of what the story is. And there, the audience isn't stupid. At least, hopefully, the audiences that would appreciate this film isn't stupid. They can understand what you're trying to say. But man, in there, okay, about 40 people in there. I would say about, I don't know, half. I don't know, maybe a little under half. Got up and went to the bathroom at some point in there. That tells me they're not riveted. That tells me they are bored. That tells me that they can stand and go away for 5-10 minutes to the stand to get more popcorn or whatever than to be locked in a film. And a film that's doing its job, you forget about everything else. You just want to be there for that time frame there. People were looking at their watches and so forth. When they walked out, someone said, "It's a good film. I just hope they don't make a sequel." That film doesn't need a sequel, and I agree. This film does not need a sequel to it. It told what it told, and it did a good job at what it told, and there it is on there. Actually, a couple of things. I saw a couple of editing problems in there as well. The very early parts of it. There's some parts where they have what they call ADR, the looping, and basically one scene that pops in mind. He's talking to the girl in the Paris cafe, and you see the back of his head basically. And you could tell his jaw isn't really saying the words he's saying. And that happened 3 times at the beginning, in the first 20 minutes of the film. And I guess, which is surprising to me. If I could spot it, surely these professional editors could have spotted that as well in there. Um, what would I cut out basically in that film? I think a lot of the backstory. Just get to the point. Sum up in there, and they didn't do an incredible job telling that this is a world where people can go into people's dreams and steal secrets or implant ideas, as this case here. And in some cases, I'm thinking, this is stupid. What's the point of this? In my mindset, I mean, I wouldn't want to do this. And apparently, it's so common they can train people to keep people from getting their dreams and so forth like that. They can be conditioned to like lucid dreaming techniques or whatever else went on and whatnot. So, anyways, cut to the chase, get to the point. And there's a lot of stories going on at the same time in there, and the way they edited it was pretty logical. And you can kind of see that in this one time frame, time is going faster than this one here, and this one's going slower and so forth like that. So you see a car falling into the water, and it's like microseconds before, and another hour goes away before it finally falls into the water. And some of these were kind of neat. I'm trying to think if there's anything inconsistencies in there. And they had a couple of little twists in there. I think that's what people were going gaga over, kind of like the Sixth Sense and whatnot. And even like this, I'll be honest, the ending, I saw it come from a mile away. It's a sucker's ending, man. I mean, I don't know what else I would have done, on there. But that ending there, you may think it's a classic ending. I think it's trite. I think I saw that coming from a bazillion miles away on there. They could have. It was, it basically is a Hollywood ending, which I guess is a Hollywood film. So maybe that's the way it should be. But I think one of the things that really saved a lot of it is the acting, and you did care about the characters in some ways. I think it was too long in a lot of ways to care about some of these folks. You just kind of get to the point of the story, and kind of like this video here, get some rambling on this as well. Get to the point of what you're trying to say in your film. And if you got 3 stories, and like in Dark Knight, that you're telling, great, awesome. But that's 3 different movies. If you're telling a story, you don't want to go out on tangents coming from one thing to another. Tell your story, and that's the craftsmanship of screenwriting. That's the craftsmanship of storytelling. Is that you tell your story well, and without getting bogged down on tangents that nobody cares about. Get to the point of the story on there. And basically, the way I would sum this film, the way I would have done this film, they would approach me with this idea or whatever on this point here. All right, basically set it up where we're in a world where espionage is going on, corporate espionage is going on, and they got these techniques now. They going that shared dreaming has now become commonplace. All right, bam, end of the story. All right, basically he can't go home because he's wanted for murder for his wife or whatever. All right, good. Now we know what the problem. We got the problem, and he wants to get back home to see his kids. All right, cool. Now we got a problem. So now how does he get to solve the problem? He needs somebody to help him make this dream thing go on. All right, so to go there and get that in there. Then he's got to go. Then the person itself, you got to figure out, okay, why is this person important enough to spend all this money to do this technique, and who's powerful enough to get him, off a murder charge, I guess, basically. All right, so someone's able to do that. All right, then you get to the story itself. The set up scenes, and they talk about in filmmaking is basically if you could take a scene out and it's not hurting the film, then it doesn't need to be there. And really, if you go run back and look at it again, could you take one scene out? Could you take this scene out there? Could you take this scene out there? Does it really matter on this thing there? Does it really matter or not? So, anyways, a good science fiction film. Obviously, spent a ton of money on it. And another thing I kind of think about: could you have made this film without the special effects? Could you made this as $1 million film, or as a $100,000 film, or as a $10,000 film? And if the answer is no, maybe there's a weakness there in some ways. You think of some of the best films, could they have been made on a smaller scale and still been good films? And the answer is yes. Good film? Yes. I don't think it's a film I want to watch again, at least not for a long time. If I were to rate it on films, golly, it's probably like an 8.5, maybe a 9. It's a good film. You know, The Matrix for me, you know, is like 10 plus. You know, Star Wars is 10 plus. You know, there's just films that just reinvent the genre. Indiana Jones was a good 10, 9.7 film or 9.9 film or something like that. I remember there's one slow part in there that I would have personally taken out if I made the film now. Um, but you know, making films isn't perfect, and there's no film that's completely 100% done. I'm sure they were rushing to get this thing out. Maybe that's why some of those early cuts in there are kind of there. And you know, if you go back and watch it again and kind of focus on that, does this ADR is actually working? And you can see, you know, if I'm doing that and I'm talking like this, my chin isn't matching the ADR, and you're seeing that from behind. It's not working out, and that cuts bad. Expand the picture, go to another scene, cut the person out, something. Cut the scene out even if you don't need it. So, anyways, good job. And if you're into science fiction film, I think you'll enjoy Inception. It is a little bit complicated to understand in a lot of ways, but I think if you're an intelligent audience, you'll be able to understand what's going on with the film. And, you know, I guess we'll see what happens in the box office. I'm sure it'd be good for a couple of weeks, and I think the buzz will probably die off pretty quick, just because I think everybody that wants to see it has probably already seen it. And for me, I just saw it in a regular theater. I don't think seeing it in IMAX would have made any difference for it. There's been bigger scenes of cars falling down and gunshots, gun scenes and stuff like that, and which I've seen before. All right, there's my review. Rock and roll.